Hello everyone, in this video we will review logical relationships in writing. They form the foundation of clear, coherent, and persuasive writing. They are the connective tissue that binds ideas together, guiding readers through your argument or narrative with precision and clarity. In this video, we'll explore the essential logical grammatical relationships that every writer needs to master. You'll also learn about different types of logical connectors, their specific functions, and how to use them effectively to enhance your writing. The specific logical connections that we're going to look at are the following: addition and amplification, contrast and concession, cause and effect, condition, comparison and similarity, exemplification, summary and conclusion. We're also going to look at some common pitfalls, some tips on how to achieve coherence, and at the end of the video, I'll leave you with a practice exercise that you can do on your own after watching it. Let's begin with addition and amplification. These relationships add information that supports, reinforces, or intensifies the previous point. We have three functions. The first one is simple addition with transition words like and, also, to, and as well as. For example, she's talented and she works hard. These are basic connectors for adding similar ideas. The second function is emphasis or intensification with transition words like furthermore, moreover, indeed, in fact, not only but also. For example, the evidence is compelling. Furthermore, it is undisputed. This adds a stronger or more important point. And finally, we have clarification or restatement with transition words like in other words, that is, or i.e., to put it another way, specifically, namely. For example, the process is inefficient, that is, it wastes time and resources. This makes the previous point clearer. Some usage tips: use furthermore and moreover to introduce more significant points that build on previous arguments. Place indeed and in fact to emphasize agreement with a previous statement, and reserve namely and specifically for introducing precise details or examples. Let's continue with contrast and concession. These relationships highlight difference, opposition, or unexpected relationships. We have three functions within contrast and concession. The first one is direct contrast, which can be achieved through transition words like but, however, in contrast, conversely, on the other hand, whereas, or while. For example, the theory is popular, however, it lacks empirical support. This shows a clear difference between ideas. The second function is concession with transition words like although, even though, despite, in spite of, nevertheless, nonetheless, still, yet, admittedly. For instance, although the cost is high, the benefits outweigh it. This acknowledges an opposing point but maintains the argument. And finally, we have unexpected result with transition words like however, yet, still, nevertheless, nonetheless. For instance, he was inexperienced, nevertheless, he succeeded. This shows an outcome that contradicts the expectations. Some key distinctions. Contrast shows difference. For instance, the days are hot while the nights are cool. So that is a contrast. Concession admits a point that seems to weaken your argument. For example, although he was tired, he finished the project. And finally, unexpected result shows an outcome against expectations. For instance, it rained all day. Nonetheless, the event was successful. Our third logical relationship is cause and effect, also known as reason and result. These relationships explain why something happens, that is the cause or reason, or what happens as a consequence, which is the effect or result. We have three functions. The first one is direct cause and effect, which can be achieved through transition words like because, since, as, therefore, consequently, thus, Hence, for example, the bridge collapsed because engineers ignored safety warnings. In this sentence, engineers' negligence directly caused the collapse. This shows an immediate or unambiguous causation. We also have indirect cause and effect with transition words like due to, owing to, as a result of, for this reason, and accordingly. For example, due to budget cuts, several programs were discontinued. In this sentence, budget cuts created conditions enabling discontinuation, but aren't the sole or active agent. Indirect cause and effect shows contributing factors or contextual causes that this function indicates background conditions enabling environments or partial contributors. And finally, we have purpose with transition words like so that, in order to, in order that, so as to. For example, we left early so that we could avoid traffic. This expresses the intended result. Some usage notes: because is stronger than since for showing direct causation. Therefore and consequently are more formal than so. Place due to before nouns or noun phrases. For instance, due to the weather. Our fourth logical connection is condition. These relationships express that one situation or action depends on another. We have three functions as well. Condition with transition words like if, unless, provided that, assuming that, in case, otherwise. For example, if you study hard, you will pass the exam. This sets the condition for the main clause. We also have a hypothetical function with transition words like supposing, if, then, in the event that. For instance, supposing we miss the train, what's our backup plan? And this is used for imagined situations. That is the meaning of hypothetical. And lastly, we have consequence with transition words like otherwise or else, failing that. For example, we must finish today, otherwise we'll miss the deadline. This shows the result if the condition isn't met. Punctuation is very important when we deal with conditions. When the conditional clause comes first, use a comma. If it rains, comma, we will cancel. And no comma when the main clause comes first. For example, we will cancel if it rains. Let's move on to our fifth logical relationship, which is comparison and similarity. These relationships show how things are alike or draw parallels. We have three functions. The first one is similarity with transition words like similarly, likewise, in the same way, equally. For instance, she excels in math. Similarly, she is gifted in science. This highlights similarities. The second function is analogy, which can be achieved through transition words like just as so, to, comparable to, analogous to. For example, just as roots support a tree, so too does education support society. So be careful with inversion in these types of sentences, which are used for an extended comparison. And lastly, we have parallelism with transition words like both, and, not only, but also, neither, nor. So remember, these are correlative conjunctions that require parallelism. For example, the solution is both practical and cost effective. This shows an equivalent importance in which both parts in the parallelism are equally relevant. Some usage tips: use similarly and likewise to connect ideas of equal importance. Just as, so too creates powerful analogies for persuasive writing. Parallel structures create rhythm and balanced sentences. Number 6 is exemplification and illustration. These relationships provide specific examples to clarify, support, or illustrate a general point. We have three functions. The first one is general example with transition words like for example, for instance, such as, and including. For instance, many fruits are rich in vitamins. For example, oranges contain vitamin C. This introduces representative examples. The second function is specific instance with words like specifically, in particular, particularly, and notably. For instance, several countries oppose the measure, specifically Brazil and India. This one is used to highlight particular cases. And finally, we have illustration with words like to illustrate, as an illustration, a case in point. For instance, the data shows improvement. To illustrate, sales increased by 20%. This provides clarifying examples. And for effective usage, keep in mind that you need to place examples close to the claims they support. They can't be too far from them. Use such as for inclusive examples and namely for exhaustive lists, and vary your transitions to avoid repetition. For instance, versus to illustrate, so don't overuse them. And the last logical connection that we're going to review in this video is summary and conclusion. These relationships signal the end of a discussion, restate main points, or draw a final inference. We have three functions: summary, final inference, and restatement. We can achieve the function of summary with transition words like in conclusion, to summarize, in summary, overall, in short. For example, in conclusion, the data supports our hypothesis. This signals the end of a discussion. The second function is final inference with transition words like therefore, thus, hence, and consequently. For instance, the results were inconsistent, therefore further research is needed. This draws final conclusion. So you may have noticed that we're using therefore, which is also used for other logical relationships. Yes, we can use the same word for more than one logical relationship, provided that the context is clear. And finally, we have restatement with words like in essence, in brief, ultimately, all things considered. Example, in essence, we need a completely new approach. And this rephrases the main points concisely. For effective conclusions, begin concluding paragraphs with clear summary transitions. So remember to keep your writing smooth with transitions. That means using these transition words. Use therefore and thus for logical conclusions based on evidence. Avoid introducing new information in conclusion sections. That's a big no-no in writing. These are some common errors and some tips on how to overcome them. The first one is comma splices. For example, it was raining, comma, therefore we stayed home. That is incorrect. The solution is to use a semicolon or start a new sentence. Another error is using furthermore when, for example, is needed. The solution is to consider the exact relationship between ideas before selecting transitions. So as we've covered in class, first you need to establish a logical relationship. The third error is using besides or so in formal academic writing. In formal academic contexts, furthermore or therefore are preferred. And finally, starting every sentence with however, so that is abusing the word however or omitting transitions entirely. And the solution is to use transitions strategically, to have a wide repertoire of transitions, to use them for more clarity. Now, these are some tips to achieve cohesion and coherence. We can achieve cohesion through transitions, pronouns, repetitions, and synonyms to connect ideas. Coherence is achieved through making ideas progress logically, even without explicit transitions. Also, paragraph unity is important. We should begin with a topic sentence, then use transitions to connect the supporting points. And finally, for argument structure, we can use relationship markers to signal each stage of an argument. Finally, I would like to leave you with an exercise in which you will identify the correct logical relationship in a pair of clauses. Remember that the link is available in the video description, and I will be posting new videos on this topic. So stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching.